Thanks. But I promise the gentlemen who are going to join me on stage now are going to make this second session also worth it. We're going to talk about the anatomy of a startup acquisition. For many, the startup journey, the final destination of a startup journey should be or is the exit. So is entrepreneurship all about the exit? This is an interesting question that we're going to ask our panelists in this session to answer. We're going to also explore the stages of the acquisition, the deal, closing the deal, the negotiations, and what happens afterwards. I would like to welcome our panelists for this session. Mr. Hervé Cuviliez, co-founder and CEO of Diwanee. Hervé is a 20-year internet serial entrepreneur whose latest startup, Diwanee, was acquired in one of the largest majority investments for a digital company in the Middle East. Mr. Daniel Neuwirth, co-founder of Shahiya, that was recently acquired by the largest online recipes company in the world, Cookpad. Daniel joined the international team of Cookpad and leads the business development function of Shahiya. Mr. Walid Hanna, managing partner at Middle East Venture Partners with assets under management worth more than $100 million. And Walid has been active in venture capital for more than 15 years. So welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you, Malak.
Let's start with the question I just stated.
No. No, I don't think so. Everybody look at the exit as a reward of, I guess the answer depends on where we are. For the moment, when you create a company in the Middle East, I guess you may know where it's exiting, because the IPO market is not there yet. Yeah. Even the funding, if someone wants to go worldwide, they want to raise $15 million, then it's complicated. So our destiny for the moment is not to exit. And like we were discussing before, it's more than an exit, it's a successful exit for both the founders and also the acquirer.
Okay. So Daniel?
So for me, I don't think exit is the thing. I think it's creating value quickly and efficiently. Exit is just one thing at the end of the path if you want, but ideally you become profitable and you have a sustainable business. And then exit is not necessarily the only option. But if you don't build it for financial sustainability, there will be no exit to start with. So financial sustainability is, I think.
So Walid, what do you think? As a venture capitalist, you have always the exit strategy in mind when you consider a startup?
Yes, I would say yes. Now, your earlier question was, is entrepreneurship all about exits? The answer is no. But if the second question is, we as VC, do we have exit as the end game? Always, even before we invest, if we do not identify the exit route or the potential profile of the acquirers, we do not invest. Unless we have a term of the fund, and if we do not identify what the exit might look like, we might be stuck. And by the way, the exit has so many different routes. It can be an international acquisition, as in Diwanee and Shahiya's case, but it could be in so many different ways. It can be private placement. It could be a leverage buyout from the founders themselves, and sometimes we structure our investments for this type of worst-case scenario, meaning the majority owner buys out our minority stake. So that's another type of exit for the venture capital. Now, again, entrepreneurship is also about creating jobs and making money, building a sustainable company, not only about exits.
Yeah.
But exit creates millionaires. I mean, Daniel, Hala, Cesar, and Carol, and as well as the Diwanee team have, amassed serious dollar amounts, millions.
So the wealth should be built through either taking the company public or selling it to a major player. This is the way the wealth
I think that what Walid's highlighting is there is a different agenda between the entrepreneur and the VCs. We work together, but as you mentioned, the VCs are coming for a very specific reason, and they have a very defined lifetime for the fund. So it's very clear, if you don't understand as an entrepreneur, don't take VCs on board. They are here to invest and to scale or achieve growth, but they also want to exit at some point. That doesn't mean you have to sell the company, but doesn't want to exit. My personal opinion is, as an entrepreneur, you think about the exit? Yeah, of course you look at the exit sometime, but if you wake up every morning thinking of the money you might do, you will never achieve anything. It's a tough job being an entrepreneur, let's be honest with that. Everybody's looking at the rosy moment and the exit, and you get the spotlight at that moment, but everybody tends to forget the 4 or 5 years before, where it was more tears and blood.
Yeah. So let's reflect more on this experience. What do you think Webedia found in Diwanee? What were they looking for? What did they find in Diwanee? And why in this part of the world?
Okay, so I get the reason of the equation could be very different from what they were doing, because Webedia has a strategy of building a worldwide group, focusing exclusively on non-English languages. So that's the way they see their protection, their barrier to entry. So when we met, naturally being strong on Arabic content, having a large audience in the Middle East was an interest for them. So that's what triggered the discussion, let's say. What closed the discussion was, I was very surprised, we were sharing the exact same DNA. So the first comment I made when I arrived at the Webedia offices is that I felt like Diwanee. And the first comment they made when they come at Diwanee for the first time was, it felt like Webedia 4 years ago, because they're much larger than us. But we had that since we felt like we don't do things. Of course, there is a money aspect. But again, for us, in our case, we exited all the investors, but we stayed for some time with Webedia.
Yeah.
So it was more a project in itself, and what they were looking at is, they didn't look back very much what we have done in 12, 13, and 14, or 12 and 13. They looked more on, they were very interested about how big we can scale, and more about doing the simulation of what happens if I invest $25 million into Diwanee, how big it can become.
Potential, the future.
Exactly. So they looked at, they were very interested by the team, the structure, the infrastructure of Diwanee, the development capabilities, etc. And I feel it was yesterday, it's already a year. Now we're going to start to see coming on the market the result of becoming part of that group. We're looking at acquisition, we're doing a lot of new initiatives. So they were looking at having a strong base in the region.
Okay. So Daniel, I move to you. How did a Tokyo Stock Exchange listed company reach Shahiya, and why?
Well, why is a good question. I think, it's very clear they have a very aggressive internationalization program. They're huge in Japan, and they did a couple of, or actually 3 acquisitions abroad in the last 18 months. So, we made ourselves visible, if you want, and they approached us. They came over to Beirut, and we had a lot of conversations about our KPIs, their KPIs, how we do things.
Sorry, did you target them? Were they on your mind before they approached you? Were they a candidate for you?
Well, let's put it like this. I think maybe focusing on Cookpad itself is a little bit, how should I say, the wrong focus, in the sense that when you have a situation or a company like ours, you have to see or you have to have a kind of a map of all the big players that could be interesting for you, or you interesting for them, where you provide value. So, of course, for example, we had conversations with the biggest player in Europe, a French company in our vertical, and that was actually introduced by MEVP. We met also the biggest player in the US, but we also made ourselves visible with our acquirer. Now, to tell you the truth, 18 months ago, I didn't know about Cookpad. Because I think it would have been probably also irrelevant, because at that time, they were not in the internationalization mood yet. For us, it's always the usual suspects. We look at the US, we look at Europe, and we think that this is where the money is going to come from. But for example, Viber was bought by Rakuten, right? Probably the Chinese big companies are going to expand into the region too. So I don't know, maybe Souk gets bought by Alibaba, could be, right? It doesn't have to be Amazon, but everybody thinks about the US and Europe. So in that case, I mean, we keep on seeing what is happening, right? And turned out bad, and this is how it started.
Yes,
I
go
think
ahead.
back to when you're an entrepreneur, it's all about exit and extra. If anyone who made an exit tells the real truth, like exactly you said about Cookpad 18 months ago, if you look at the story of Diwanee, we made the exact same exercise as what you mentioned when we raised money. As like, who can be a possible acquirer? And we had a list of 14 groups that could be possibly one, and of course Webedia was none of them. And
It's also, I think, a relatively new media group the way it is.
Exactly, because the story came, and in fact, it started back in 2009. We went at the Midcom in Cannes just to meet some other content producer, and a friend of mine introduced to the CEO of Webedia, who was very smaller at that time, and we took a coffee, and the guy was like, what are you doing, what am I doing? And I was like, oh, that's funny, you're doing kind of the same thing, and I was like, nice meeting you, and bye-bye. And then 4 years after, the guy received a capital injection of 200 million euro to get an aggressive international pension. Called back my friend. I was like, does your friend still doing these things? He was like, yeah, I think so. Can you hook me up with him? And that was it. So again, they were not even on the map. They were too small. They were different. So I guess like focusing too much on this, anyway, you will always be surprised by the solution you're gonna come up with.
Let's hear from the VC. Walid, what role MEVP played in the Shahiya Cookpad deal?
And the exit itself?
Yeah.
Well, we try to introduce them to other acquirers in order to open up a bidding process. We went to all recipes in the US. They didn't move quite quickly enough, okay? Honestly, we were about to create a fictitious second bid just to raise the ante,
Okay.
but we didn't do that. Our role was more into prepping the team, and we kind of trained them into maximizing the valuation and the terms of the investment itself. Because it's not only about a valuation number, okay? In this case, it was 13.5, but it's all about, there's an equity earnout part of it. There's a holdback amount that will be paid later on. The VC, typically in this type of scenario, should get paid first in general, because we don't play any role after the acquisition. The founders, the team of 4, have to, they're locked. They're locked for 2 years, I guess. Maybe 1, maybe 3. I'm
They
not
have
sure.
the know-how, no? So
0 years. Oh, okay. They have no lock.
that was a very good deal, it seems.
But typically, I mean, I don't know about Hervé, but how many years? 3 years. Our role stops there, okay? We benefit from everything else, but our role stops at prepping and training and negotiating and reviewing. For example, I'll give you a benchmark. We looked at other acquisitions in this specific vertical, in the content vertical, and we gave directions to the team in their negotiations. We participated in the meetings and in some of the negotiations. We reviewed the contracts, the share purchase agreement. It's a whole process. It starts with an LOI that ends up with a share transfer, and then money is in escrow, and then it's released. Typically, the teams, the founders and the entrepreneurs do not know how to deal with all of this. And there's a lot of nerves and emotions involved. All of these people, in terms of entrepreneurs, they see millions and they get excited. I'm not talking about the Shahiya team, okay, in general. They get excited, hey, I'm going to be a millionaire. They do the math. I own 25% of 10 million. That's $2.5 million. That's it. I'm going to sign now. And that's not the way it goes. There's a lot of nerves and education, and we don't know it either. We have a chairman who's an investment banker who's done billions in transactions. He played a serious role in training those entrepreneurs and founders and negotiating an exit. That's more or less our role. But honestly, our role becomes before we even invest in the company. If you ask me what's my personal role or MEVP with regards to building a company, it starts before even we invest and not at the exit point.
Yeah.
We add a lot of value before.
So, Daniel, what are the main ingredients you think that led to the $13.5 million recipe? And how many of these ingredients were contributed by MEVP?
Good question. Well, one, I think the most important thing is when taking VC money is that it's kind of, how should I say, clean and simple, because the more complicated it becomes, the more complicated things turn out to be. So in that sense, for example, our acquirer was an acquirer who was doing exactly what we're doing. So it was throughout the conversation or the negotiations, it was always about the value, about the users, the product, the community, etc., etc. And also the, how should I say, the culture of the companies, like Hervé was saying, the DNA. Because if the acquirer is buying a team and it has a different DNA, then if they're doing the same thing, then it will not work. Things will just fall apart, if you want. If it's I don't know, if it's an investment, it's a financial acquisition by a PE company or something, that could be different. And in that case, I think the VC can have a much bigger role because it becomes rather a financial transaction. But for us, I think the key drivers of the whole deal were, like, as I said, the culture of the company, the team, the traction, the track record that we had, also our vision for the future and our ability to communicate that vision for the future. Because at the end of the day, we don't have a lockup clause in our agreements. And actually, we proactively asked them why there isn't any lockup. And they said, basically, a lockup is meaningless because if the relationship is not working, then it's just a liability. Right? I mean, there is a non-compete, naturally. But other than that, it's a matter of, are we happy working together? So this is where I think the culture and everything is of key importance. And then, of course, also, like, we have to be realistic. I mean, Lebanon is Lebanon, it's not Silicon Valley, right? So you have a lot of noise in the news that can disrupt transactions. So, for example, when the acquirers first came to Lebanon, we had a situation like a few hundred meters down the road, the police caught 120 Daeshi terrorists. So how do you deal with such a situation? I mean, this can disrupt a deal. Like, someone is coming from Japan, first time to Lebanon, and this is the headline, and next thing is, you know what, I'm flying back. This just doesn't make any sense.
Plus, there was a couple of Japanese that were caught by Daesh.
That was another story. But at the end of the day, so if the chemistry doesn't work, if you don't have, like, the right culture, etc., then the discussion will just break down. And especially here, like, if you're in Silicon Valley, as I said, I mean, there are things that are just natural, but here it's kind of different.
Hervé, what was the toughest part of the negotiations? The same things?
Honestly, it was not tough. The valuation came pretty easily. Maybe because I'm sure that it was exactly the same thing with Cookpad. Webedia have performed 250 million euro in acquisition last year. So you don't come up with someone who's going to acquire you as a first timer either. So they come, they know what they do. And when
but how does the process change in this part of the world? Did they look at Diwanee the same way they looked at other acquisitions abroad?
Yeah, exactly the same thing. They were not. They were not scared about the Middle East. Of course, we had we spent half a day discussing about the recovery plan of Diwanee in case of anything happened in Lebanon, because we had 85 people in Lebanon. So we had to build a recovery case. That was kind of easy. When they came, they understood. Going back to the political problem you have in the news, the bad joke we were making is we were very lucky that the deal went through. But at that moment when Ukraine was all over the news, and when you had a car bomb in Beirut, because they're a French company, so Lebanese news goes very spread in French news, and we were page 10. So we were like we need to close the deal before they settle the case in Ukraine, because Lebanon is going to go back on front page. But there, it's a dimension. It's a dimension that you always have in mind. They come, you're like, how everything gonna go through, no problem at the airport. That's something you remind me.
Is it the digital nature of the business that makes the political and security situation?
No, it's just someone who comes and do a multi-million-dollar, dozen of $1,000,000 check, and you come in a country, if he doesn't feel comfortable, he won't do it.
Yes.
And don't forget also, it's you fighting. I think that's something that something for Cookpad, Webedia, or the other. They have dozens of opportunities. So it's us or another, it's us plus another. So if they feel the deal is too complicated, they're going to pass away. And it's like, you know what, we're going to come back in 12 months' time.
Maybe. Maybe.
So what potential do they see? Walid, what do you think?
Thing, I mean, actually, digital in this case is actually something that helps. Because
this is what I meant.
Yeah,
is it the digital nature that makes it
yes, because I mean, our audience, all of our audience is not in Lebanon, right? I mean, Lebanon is unfortunately no market for us, right? I mean, it's a reality. I mean, it's really from a financial perspective, etc. It's not really a market, right? So that, of course, kind of, if you can communicate that clearly to the acquirer, and of course it makes a lot of sense, then it mitigates that country risk, if you want. And of course they'll ask, okay, so what happens if the country shuts down? Then you say, okay, we have plan B. We can go to Cyprus, we can go to Dubai, we can go to Jordan, we can go to Egypt, or whatever.
Business runs.
Well, it doesn't run. It will get disrupted, but they will ask you, and you will need to have a kind of a vision of how you deal with that situation, because nobody wants to move out of Lebanon, because the cost base everywhere else is going to be prohibitive, almost, more expensive, maybe prohibitive. So Lebanon definitely has a very, it's a valuable place to operate from. But at the end of the day, the fact that you have the option of moving out is different than if you have a factory and you've invested $100 million and the next day it's...
Diwanee was always like this. Everything was cloud-based.
Yes, of course.
The company, the office in Lebanon is tables and computers.
Yes.
Only the time it matters. So we were like, look, if a problem happens in Beirut, we go back up in the mountain, 48 hours.
Of course.
And that's it. And if it's continued for more than 15 days, we're going to move back to Cyprus, we do this. And then, in fact, the guys look at you, and I think, I don't know, but the fact also, I don't know for you, but the fact I was French, I was like, look, I have my kids here, I live here. Do I lose care? No. So is that potentially a problem? Yes, but we're talking maybe 0.5% of chance. So come on, it's a good business.
If we have a French and a German that can make it out of Lebanon, I'm pretty sure any other. He's German, by the way. No, but you didn't talk about the pros of being in Lebanon. Are we talking about Lebanon or the region with regards to the world?
But to add to it, I think the quality of the management team is very, very important. Like if it's a one-man show in a garage, I think it's a little bit maybe more complicated. But the fact, I think both our companies have like senior managers that are not like too young, people who are like experienced, they have the track record personally, and who look professional. I mean, you can deal with them. You know, in a situation where you have plan B, there is plan B. It makes sense. It's not like, oops, what do we do?
You were well prepared. You were well prepared for negotiations, for the deal.
But we're also experienced to be able to deal with situations, I think. This is very important.
So. And then back to Walid's point. I think, okay, that's it's an hour discussion about this. But then they quickly realize all the advantage to have a strong operation in Lebanon is you have talent, content production is one of the best countries, is the best country in the region to produce content. So you have a lot also of pros on the balance. And then, you know, one of the fear we had when we sold was we always put some personal pride and in pushing to have a lot of job done in Lebanon. It was like maybe they're going to start to cut off the operation and push back to Dubai and they realized pretty quickly that no, Lebanon makes a lot of sense, and now we keep on hiring people in Lebanon, and we're growing more in Lebanon than we're growing in Dubai. And if you ask Webedia where is the headquarters of Diwanee, they're going to answer Beirut. They won't answer Dubai.
For us, even from a legal perspective, it's very interesting because our company, like Cookpad, is a public company. So first of all, of course, they had to get some understanding of the legal laws and and regulations here in Lebanon. But to a certain extent, they were actually happy that we are a Lebanese SAL. We're not an offshore, we're not a BVI company or whatever, because for a public company, like offshore companies can get complicated because of money laundering, etc., etc. Depends, but in this case, it's a super conservative company.
They have a lot of disclosures to do as a public company.
So for us, like if we were a BVI company, for example, they would probably, like, there is the probability that would have passed the deal, because it's somehow a little bit fishy. So you have too many factors, but if you're saying, okay, you're a classical SAL Lebanese company, employees registered here, etc., then it all adds up. It's a little bit foreign. You can explain to them the differences, but then they will
fits
understand
more into
it.
their framework. Okay.
Exactly.
So let's hear from Walid. How does your return compare to the international benchmarks as a VC fund in Lebanon?
Okay, first of all, we're a Middle Eastern VC firm, and we manage multiple funds regionally. Okay, now we have an impact fund just for Lebanon, but we have Middle East Venture Fund 1 and now Middle East Venture Fund 2 for the region. So we would not compare ourselves to Lebanon. Okay, it's with regards to comparing the region to the US. I would say the returns are completely different because the investment strategy is completely different. In the US, because you have IPO markets and it's a very active M&A market, there's a lot of exit activity. Okay, in this part of the world, it's very tough to exit. Really, believe me. Mostly if it's an SAL. Okay, who wants to invest in an SAL in Lebanon? It's really tough. Those guys made it, and bravo. Whoa, bravo. But it's really tough to do this. Most of our companies are registered either as free zones in Dubai or BVI or Cayman, etc. Now, with regards to impact fund, it has to be in SAL. Now, going back to the challenge of sure. Yeah, the investment strategy itself. In the US, they would bet on 1 out of 10 to succeed. We don't do this kind of bet. Why? Because our best ever exit, might be a 10x. Maybe, if we're lucky, 15x. Those who invested in Facebook got probably 2,000 times their return by IPOing. We do not do IPOs, and we will never do IPOs in this part of the world. So let's not kid ourselves. It's going to be a trade sale or some kind of another structured buyout. So in this case, our investment strategy has to be much more conservative. We cannot invest in disruptive business models that have a small probability of making it. So most of the investments that we've done so far are inspired by the West, okay? And it is innovative, it's localized, it's Arabized, but none of them are disruptive. One more thing, the average age of the entrepreneurs we invest in is 38 years old. These are seasoned entrepreneurs that are looking to replicate an existing or a proven business model that has been proven elsewhere. So we take much less risk in this sense, because we know for a fact that our exit's going to be quite limited in multiples. Now, in terms of Shahiya, we got really lucky, honestly. 2 years, 6x, that's a very good return.
So you didn't expect,
But we're going to do more than that.
This deal at this period of time after this, it wasn't expected by you?
No, we do not invest to exit 2 years later, okay? Our horizon is 5, 6, 7 years. But we do expect to make 5 to 10x. Now, there is one company in our portfolio that might return the whole fund. One. We'll see about that. The future will tell. But we're not betting on this. We're betting on having 50, 60% exit and succeed and returning 2 to 3x the whole fund.
So, Hervé, let's reflect more on what happens afterwards, after the acquisition is completed. So now, how did your role change? How did your life change? I'd like to ask also this question.
Did you buy a Ferrari?
Other than the Ferrari or...
So not at all. So look, the first thing is I think the most surprising part is Diwanee raised before the exit $6 million, 6.5. So I guess I spent for the past 4 years at least 30% of my time raising money. So suddenly you don't have to raise money anymore. So you find more time. So you go back more to your clients. You focus more on your business. And so it's a more focused job. The only question is, do I remember a real CEO on Diwanee? The answer for the moment is yes. I think also Webedia knows the answer. At the moment, the answer is going to be no, I won't be here anymore. So I have a very strong shareholders. But I'm still the CEO. And they are smart enough to understand that they're going to need some time to understand the region and being able to operate. So for the moment, you know, it's an happy marriage for Europe. So we'll see. 7 years is a tough moment, but for the moment everything is fine. And yes, of course, but you know, you can say sometimes I have to ask for permission for some things, but even we always have been very, very careful on the right we were giving to the investors. I guess we had a pretty light board. We are very hands-on. Almost nobody had nothing to power on anything and extra. So now we have a much stronger shareholder, but they trust us for the moment. I think my biggest concern for the moment is make them happy about the acquisition. And one responsibility we have, we were talking about this, it's not taking the money and run to the Ferrari or Porsche garage, is make sure that the guy who spent dozens of millions of dollars in a company in Lebanon spread the word that he made a good deal. And if we can make that happen, we will see a lot of acquisition. If we run with the money, we won't see a lot of
story ends there.
Yeah.
So Daniel, do you sleep better now?
Good question. Well, I do sleep a little bit better, that is true. I don't have to think about the future of my children anymore. But other than that, I concur with Hervé. I mean, the thing is, of course, first you don't have to spend that much time on fundraising. That's one thing, which is by itself something. But the other thing is also that you don't have to have it anymore on the back of your mind. I mean, it's not only the time that gets you have more time during the day, but you have more energy to do really the things that you should be doing, which is creating value, right? So that has changed significantly. The second thing is, of course, now we have a partner who, first of all, has done what we've done probably 5, 6, 7 years ago. They have a great team, know-how, expertise. So we're sharing a lot of experiences. So that helps us, like, instead of doing 10 experiments to find the 3 ones that work, we can skip 5 because they've done that. And we're very lucky also that our counterparts or our acquirers are not ego-driven people. So in that sense, they don't tell us do this or do that. They just say, okay, if you want to do this, maybe you need to consider this and these repercussions, or when we did it, we had these problems, or this is how it worked out for us. So it's really a kind of, you have a partner you can talk to. And so we're, of course, very lucky. And this helps us kind of be more efficient, if you want, because we can get more output or outcome per unit of time or energy, which is very important. But other than that, I also concur with Hervé. I mean, the thing is, at the end of the day, we also love our product or our service or what we're doing, right? So, it was not like a financial company we created and we just jumped, now we can jump off. So we communicated always throughout the negotiations and afterwards, like really our vision. So we don't really have any issues with that because this is what we believe in. So we want to make them happy, but we're kind of also at a good position to make them happy because the expectations are also aligned. I mean, if for whatever reason something doesn't work out, they will be disappointed, but we will be even more disappointed because we're kind of, this is our vision, you know. So
would you invest in another startup?
Would I invest in another startup? Yes, I definitely.
In Lebanon?
Definitely. In the region. In Lebanon and the region for sure. Outside, I have no expertise, so I would leave my fingers off.
Most entrepreneurs become venture capitalists. I mean, not most of them.
Maybe angel. Partner with Lead Venture.
Yes, I just heard.
So yeah, definitively yes. I'm definitively super excited about what's going to happen on the Lebanese market. I think
Is it because of the money you made, or because of the potential you really see?
No. It's more about, if you look at when we started, it was 2009. I can't remember you, but it was
2010.
2010. So when we started, it's very, very early stage. We had bits and pieces everywhere. Now, if you look at the ecosystem, it's still a piece of the puzzle, but you can see you have all the pieces of the puzzle. You have late stage fund, you have series fund, you have seed fund coming, you have accelerator, you have good entrepreneur, you have now case that it's doable.
Yeah.
So we have
success stories.
now, and yet there is a lot of money. We need a lot of good entrepreneurs as well. I think one of the next phenomena going to be also people who spend, and that's going to be a natural process in the coming 2 years, people who spend all the journey inside Shahiya, inside Diwanee, living to create their own startup because they have seen it from the inside.
Yeah.
And it's true that being acquired by a group doing exactly the same thing, we feel like going to the supermarket when we're going to Paris, there is 1,000 people, they have all the tools. What we have done in advertising technology in 6 months was not achievable at Diwanee alone. So that's going to help also to raise the bar globally with a fair, you're going to start to see fair competition. We're also going to be somehow fair competition. We had a lot of respect for Shahiya. You know, the inside story between the both acquisition when we received an email from Shahiya saying Mabruk, and so we replied thanks and etc. And the minute the same was like your turn. And so we were exchanging email on that.
It worked.
So no, I'm super excited about what's going to happen in the next few years. I think we should take it lightly. It's not a given.
Yeah.
There is a lot of challenges, but we are entrepreneurs. Even if we become more VCs, the job of an entrepreneur is to take the positive part and change the bad part.
So Walid, what's on the top of your wish list for what should be done to have more success stories, to have a better environment for the VC model to work better in Lebanon?
Better VC model?
Yeah, and I mean to have more success stories.
Well, first on my wish list, there was a very noisy back room over there. I wish there was more excitement on this panel on my wish list. No, let's be serious about it. Yes, we have a lot of money now, okay? Lebanon has this 331 blessing, and every single gap is being filled, as Hervé was saying, from the seed capital to boot camps, acceleration, Series A, Series B, everything is being filled. Now, the missing component is still talent, unfortunately. Entrepreneurs, well, the average age of our entrepreneurs is 38 years old so far, but I guess going forward it's going to drop and drop and drop. Because people are becoming entrepreneurs or will become entrepreneurs thanks to this amount of money that's available. They will become entrepreneurs much earlier, but they wouldn't be as experienced as we would like them to be. So talent is missing, and talent is continuing missing. So on top of my wish list would be definitely more entrepreneurs, smarter entrepreneurs, a better exit, better ecosystem in order to nurture and have the complete cycle again. So now more mentors to have those young companies to become smarter and talented and investment ready, because they're not investment ready. Most of them are not. They think they are, but they're not. So better quality of a deal flow would be on top of my wish list as a venture capitalist.
So, questions, please.
Hi, I have a question for Hervé, who has a successful track story with Diwanee. So after all what happened today, what would he recommend to a new young digital Lebanese entrepreneur to start from Lebanon, or to do what he did with, because the Diwanee had like a part of its operation in Lebanon and the commercial arm in Dubai. So would you recommend for a Lebanese entrepreneur to diversify like what you did from the beginning, to go regional, or to start on a small scale and then based on your experience? Thanks.
There is no straight answers on this, but look, if you, I think definitively it's a region. Lebanon is a too small market with very little exception, like to make enough revenue and extra, especially in our business where we are advertising based or transaction based in commerce, extra. You need to have a scale. So I think at minimum when you create a startup, you need to think it regionally. the Lebanon is a very good case when it comes to talent, cost of operation. Honestly, I've been hearing for years about electricity, and that's why there is electricity, no matter if it's generator or EDL, we don't care if there is electricity at the end of the day. So this is no problem. So you have a very strong case for operation in Lebanon. Now, you need also to look at the region. Dubai have done an amazing job of attracting very large groups. So if you look at all the headquarters of FMCGs, the big international company, they are headquartered in Dubai, so you cannot avoid if you want to get revenue to be there. So think regionally from the start, or think, I think regionally more than internationally because it's more complicated to start to go abroad. Look at one single market, even if it's not really one, but be bold about Lebanon. I keep on hearing that story. I was like, oh, but you know, I look at it with when I choose to set up Diwanee in Lebanon. Yes, my wife is Lebanese, and we look at it, but she was living in France, and we choose Lebanon because even in 2009, we thought it was the best place to do most of the operation. And it was not Dubai, it was not Amman, it was Dubai, it was Beirut. So I'm very, very bullish about the country, but yes, it's a small market, and you need to think regionally for the revenue generation. Does that answer your question?
But if I may add something, I mean, like if you're a French company, you don't think about Paris, you think about France, right? In Germany, you don't think about Frankfurt, you think about the whole of Germany and maybe also about Europe. So when you think Lebanon, you think, yeah, you're based in Beirut, but your market is the whole Arab world. And that's, I mean, it just has to be natural. If you don't think like that, then probably you need to think a little bit harder. I mean, I have a lot of conversations about the planes between Beirut and Dubai and Beirut and Jeddah and Riyadh being always full. And for me, it's a no-brainer because at the end of the day, like, if I'm working in the US, then there are certain routes that are full all the time too, because there are hubs that cover regions, and Beirut can be a hub. So you have to think regionally. Otherwise, I think the market is just too small. The opportunities are just too big out there to ignore.
No, I wish Beirut was a hub, honestly, but today Dubai is the hub. That's why we encourage most companies to have a presence between Beirut and Dubai in order for Dubai to cover the GCC. It's really tough to cover GCC out of Beirut. Some are doing it, okay, Shahiya did it. And
we had a partner with Shahiya Group, which is based in Dubai.
Exactly. Their partner was Dubai-based in a way. But there are many advantages of being based in Lebanon, if we're just focusing this on Beirut. Not only about, good talent, salaries are like a third of what they would be paid in Dubai. It compares mostly to Amman. It's a bit more expensive than Cairo. But I mean, Lebanese are talented, they have skills, they are multilingual, and we have good universities, computer science, computer engineers, and sales. You know, the joke here is that Lebanese are the best, creatives and the best salespeople. Jordanians are the best operators. Egyptians are the best scientists. We have what it takes here to become salespeople and even content builders like Diwanee and Shahiya.
So I think this is the best way to end it, with this positive note. Thank you, Walid, Daniel, Hervé.
Thank you, Malak.
Thank you for being such a wonderful audience. That was a pleasure and an honor for me. Thank you.